Nobody told me.
What's going on? It's Samantha from Lone Crow Adventures, the channel where we talk about all things camping, hiking, and backpacking. And today I'm going for a short day hike on the Bearskin Trail in northern Wisconsin, and I thought I would take this opportunity to share with you the 5 things I wish that I knew before I started camping. I learned these lessons the hard way so that you don't have to. So let's go. It's a lovely day. It's the beginning of April here in northern Wisconsin, and we're going to be hammered with some more snow later in the week. But for now, most of the snow is melted, most of the ice is melted, and the sun is shining. So it's a great day to get out and do a short little hike. I'm sure if you guys are outdoor enthusiasts, as I anticipate you are if you watch this channel, you're probably also feeling the cabin fever after the long winter. So what is the very first thing that I learned when I started camping? Well, I learned this one the hard way. I'm sure there's quite a few of you that have learned this lesson too. And that is that tents are not waterproof. Sure, the advertisement says it's weatherproof. All of the signage on the box says that it'll stand up to any storm. But when you actually get out in the field and you get that tent set up, it'll handle a light rain shower. No problem. Yep, it'll do that. Even a heavy downpour, if it's short duration, 20, 25 minutes, maybe even an hour, maybe 2 if you have a really good tent. But if it's a situation where it's a total rain out, you're gonna get wet. Your fly is going to leak. And it's not necessarily because it's not seam sealed. It's because it only has a hydrostatic head rating that is designed to hold up against so much water. So most tent flies have a hydrostatic head rating of 3,000 millimeters, which basically means they took a tube of some size and it was 3,000 millimeters high. I think the tube is maybe that big around. But the tube is 3,000 millimeters high before the tent fabric began to leak. So if you have rain pounding down on your tent at a high rate, it's going to leak. If that fabric gets completely saturated with rain, like we're talking all day, it's going to leak. So if you're going camping and you know it's going to be a rain out, bring yourself one of those cheap tarps, the 8x10 number that you can pick up at Walmart or at Tractor Supply, and drape that right over the top of your tent. That'll keep the rain out. And the other thing is that the rain doesn't just come from the sky. Oh no, that rain, it'll come from the ground. The ground around the side of your tent will get completely saturated, and then it will start to seep up through the bottom of your tent. Now this isn't going to happen, in just a light rain shower, but I'm talking more of a situation where it rains all day and all night type of thing. So it's also a good idea to grab a second tarp, also from Tractor Supply or Walmart, wherever you can buy a cheap tarp, Harbor Freight, any of those places. Just make sure it's a little bit smaller than the footprint of your tent, and you put your tent right on top of it. And that way it provides an extra layer of protection against that moisture that's going to come up from the ground. You want to make sure that that tent is bigger than the tarp, because if the tarp overhangs the edges of the tent, then all the rain's going to run off the edge of the tent, land on the tarp, right underneath your tent, and eventually get you wet. But yes, even the best tents are not waterproof. So definitely make a contingency plan if there's rain in the forecast. The second thing I learned when I very first started camping was that you need to bring some equipment to process wood. Even if you're planning on buying firewood at the wood store or at the camp store. A lot of times, especially if you're traveling, it's not a good idea to bring wood from home or bring wood into different counties, because different counties often have restrictions from bringing wood outside of that county. So it's pretty common if you're car camping that you'll buy the wood at the camp store or from a roadside stand close to the campground. And you'd think, that's all you need to start a fire with, your matches and a lighter and maybe some newspaper or something. Well, then you realize all of these pieces of wood are humongous, and you don't have a way to split them up to make kindling, and you don't really have any tinder, and then you spend all evening trying to get these giant logs to burn. That's what I did when I first started camping. I bought 3 or 4 bags of wood from the camp store my first night out. I didn't have an axe, I didn't have a saw, I didn't have anything. So I kind of wandered around the campsite, which if you've ever been camping, those campsites are pretty picked over in terms of appropriate tinder or kindling. And I gathered what I could, and I finally did get a fire going. But that was the last time I made that mistake. I definitely always bring either a full-size forest axe, or I'll at least bring a hatchet. I often actually like to bring a wood splitter, a dedicated wood splitter, like a 4-pound maul. That'll just get through anything with very little physical effort. And I also like to bring a little collapsible saw. I like the Corona saw. It's pretty cheap. I think it's got like a 12-inch blade on it. It's got some teeth. I've been using it for years and it's still pretty sharp. And this way, if you have to cut something, you find a nice dry piece of wood, a branch or something in the woods, you can cut it up and into some smaller segments with that little saw. So definitely bring something to process the wood with, because you don't want to pull a Samantha on your first camping night out. We did get a fire going, but it was a little tough the first time, and I didn't know that. I didn't grow up tent camping. I grew up camping in my backyard where all the wood was already processed, because my parents did not like tent camping. They were cabin camping people. So I kind of go against the grain in that respect. Little stream here. Triple Tubes Trestle. That's beautiful. I am so blessed to live in such a beautiful place. The third thing I learned about camping is that you really need to be particular and pay attention to the lay of the land when you're choosing a campsite. A lot of campsites will have some hilly terrain, and when you're choosing to orient your tent, I don't like to sleep on the side of a hillside. If I can pick a campsite that's a little bit more flat, I certainly will. But if I have to choose something with a hill, I make sure to orient my tent and then orient my sleeping bag inside the tent so that my head is always above my feet. I don't like to sleep on a hillside sideways, because even if it's just a small, almost imperceptible hill, it still feels like you're going to roll right off your sleeping pad and roll right down the hill. The other thing to think about when you're talking about hills is that water collects at the bottom. So if you set your tent, and you've got just a little slope in that campsite, guess what? If it rains, it's all going to collect right where you put your tent. Yep, learned that one the hard way. And I also learned that when you invite friends out to your campsite and you have a tarp set up on your tent, don't set up your friend's campsite with their tent in the drain field of where your tarp from your tent is going when you're expecting rain. That happened once. A group of us girls went camping. I invited a couple people out. I said, I got a tent. It's all good. I'll get it all set up by the time you get out here. Oh, I did. I had a big 10 by 12 foot tarp hanging off the side of my tent. and it was just pouring buckets. And of course we had set up a little rain shelter. We were all sitting under the rain shelter with a tiki torch, and we're having a couple beers, and all of a sudden I realized, my goodness, I set up her tent in the exact drainage line for my tent, and I had a pretty big tent, and I mean it was like Niagara Falls. And I mentioned that to one of the girls, and no sooner did the one who went to bed early come bolting out of that tent saying, "It's leaking, it's leaking." It was raining so hard that the rain coming off that tarp actually was hitting the side of the tent, and it was leaking through the seam at the top of the bathtub floor because there was just so much water being pulled off of my tent onto her tent. So don't set your friend's tent up in an area where your tent is draining, because they'll be pissed and they'll have a terrible time. The fourth thing I learned actually came probably a couple years later into camping. And I think all of us who really enjoy camping and really get into the camping gear especially, this is something that we all are prone to, which is thinking that more is more when really less is more. When you go to the camping store, even if it's just the camping aisle at Walmart, I know I'm not the only one that gets really geeked out looking at all the new stuff they have. They have this nice little camp kitchen set, this little foldable table that you can set up, and it's got a couple little zippered cabinets on it that you can keep your dishes in, and then you've got the pop-up bathroom and the toilet, which I still swear by to this day. I love that pop-up bathroom with the little 5-gallon bucket toilet. But they have so much gear and so many things that it can kind of make your camping trip be less fun. It can be overwhelming because you have to get all the gear packed up. And then once you get out to the campsite, you have to get it all set up. And then you only have a limited amount of time to actually be with your family or friends and enjoy camping before you have to start thinking about tearing all that stuff back down again, packing back up, and then putting it all in the car. Then once you get in the car, you get home and got to deal with it again, put it away. So it can really be a disincentive to go camping when you have all this extra stuff. I mean, we had absolutely everything at one point. Extra structures. We had a bug house, right? That worked as a rain shelter and a bug house. We had the pop-up bathroom. We had the dedicated kitchen with the kitchen cabinets and the little doohickey that you could hang your lantern on. We had a wagon that we could use to haul stuff around the campground, and 2-burner propane stove. Then we also had a single burner propane stove. I don't know why we needed 2 stoves, but we did. Fishing gear, all kinds of fishing gear, swim gear, all kinds of that kind of stuff. Then you got, of course, your pool toys and your floaties and stuff for going in the water. And then don't forget your trekking poles and your backpack and all that stuff, all on the same trip. It's ridiculous. There's too much stuff. So what I learned is that my favorite trips are the trips where I bring my tent, a chair, I use the picnic table that's provided at the park, or I bring a little itty-bitty folding one if there isn't one there. And I only set up a rain shelter if I know it's going to rain. I don't set up extra stuff. That's stupid. But it took me a long time to learn that because, I go to the camping store, and of course this is a camping channel. I love to review gear, and I'd buy the latest and greatest of whatever it is, and then just end up making the camping trip so complicated that it almost seemed like too much rigmarole to even get ready for it. So don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. I like it simple. Wow. Look at this little creek here. That's beautiful. Lakewood Trestle. It's the Bearskin Creek. So pretty this time of year. A little bit of that snow on the bank. Mother Nature, she's just starting to come alive. Carry on. And the fifth thing I learned about camping is that I like to go camping to get away from people, not to be around people. And you have to be selective about where you go camping. Sarah and I have traveled to a lot of different places over the years, and we like to see the big scenic overlooks and all the attractions that draw people to super popular places. But when you go to these super popular places, you have to be prepared for the fact that you're going to be on top of people. And if you're not having a good time anymore, it's time for the trip to be over. 3 years ago, we took a road trip out east, and one of the places we were going to camp was in Shenandoah National Park. And I knew it was going to be off the walls busy. I mean, that's pretty close to DC and, generally a pretty urbanized area, even though it's pretty, in the mountains. But it's still fairly accessible for city folks. So I knew the campgrounds were going to be crawling with people. So I decided, you know what, we're only going to spend, I think it was like one night at Shenandoah, and then we were going to carry on to the rest of our road trip. So I booked us in at a backpacking site. And we got there. And of course the campground was just like I thought. Itty bitty little campsites, wall to wall people. Every site in the whole park is, people camping there. And then we go and we check out our backpacking site, which isn't really a backpacking site. It was like a, maybe 300-foot hike from the parking lot to these sites that were in the woods. There were 6 or 7 of them there. We actually had to hike through someone else's campsite to access our campsite. And that just freaked me out. I mean, we had to walk. These campsites were so small. The trail leading to our campsite, we had to step directly in front of someone's tent. There was about 3 foot of space between the fire pit and that person's tent, and that was where the trail went to lead us to our campsite. So we walked to our campsite, and Sarah and I both prefer no crowds, no people. Both of us have a little bit of social anxiety. We're awkward around people. So we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, we're not staying here. So we went up to the front and we checked to see if there were any other campsites that maybe we could flip our reservation to see maybe if there's something, at least we don't have to walk in front of, between the tent and the fire pit of someone else's campsite, even just to leave to go use the bathroom. And the ranger said, no, unfortunately, there's nothing else available. So, it was considered a same-day cancellation, but we canceled that reservation. And we had that reservation for months. And we just got back in the Jeep and we just rolled on through and we just kept going and we carried on with our plans. And we got out of the Shenandoah Valley, and then I think we actually just kind of slept in the Jeep. Not sure exactly where we ended up. We didn't have anywhere to camp, but we were so much happier doing that versus if we would have stayed there and set up. We would have had so much anxiety. We would have been probably kind of angry. You know how there's a lot of people around, a lot of crowds. You get kind of, at least I do. It would have been a terrible experience. So that's what I mean. As soon as it stops being fun, as soon as it stops being relaxing, throw in the towel, pack up your stuff, and go home. That's the 5th thing I learned about camping. Because you never want camping to become a negative experience. It's supposed to be your opportunity to detach from the world and escape from your reality. But the biggest thing I learned about camping is that the views and the sounds behind me are the #1 reason to go. And if you guys want to know the big mistakes that a lot of people make when they go camping in the spring, I want you to click right over here, and we'll see you on that video.